This dude's probably looking at my ass. Anyways, guys, I'm here to enlighten you about Blade and Soul's endgame. So what I'm going to run you guys through are some of the endgame Soul Shield sets that you should be trying to get, what and how to upgrade your endgame weapons and accessories. I'm going to explain faction questing and faction rank, guild ranks, and I'm going to explain crafting guilds and some of the endgame currency. So let's get right into it. By the time you hit 45, you should have an Awakened Infernal necklace, Awakened Infernal earring, and ring, and you should have an Awakened Infernal weapon as well, because that dungeon that you get those drops from is like a level 36 to 40 dungeon. So by the time you're 45, you should definitely have those. Remember that if your weapon or accessories aren't quite yet at this tier, you can attempt to upgrade them, and it will tell you the materials that you need to upgrade it or break it through. And you can hover over the materials or weapon or accessory that you need to break it through, and it will tell you where specifically to find that accessory or weapon at. When you hit 45, you should have a decent Soul Shield set to farm the endgame dungeons, because you will get one-shotted. So one place I suggest you guys going where you can get a nice Soul Shield set that gives you a decent amount of HP and some pretty good stats to farm the endgame dungeons and instance with is in the Orchard of Souls, which if you zoom out of your map, it's in the Moonwater Plains, and it's in the bottom right. So down here in this area, there are two world bosses. Don't worry about the one that's near the top. It's the one that's near the bottom. He has a few mobs that you have to take out because they're conjuring up, I don't know, his spirit. You farm this guy and you go and spin the wills. I'm not going to explain wills because by level 10, you should know about wills and farming world bosses. So you use the tokens, and after a few spins, you will get this nice set, and it will make you pretty tanky. So then after getting that set, I suggest you guys come over to the Black Ram Shipyard. This is where pretty much a lot of the endgame farming is going to happen at. There's a 6-man dungeon over here, and there's a 24-man instance. I would start off with the 24-man instance because it's much easier. There's a lot more people to help you kill the bosses and things like that. The next set you're going to be focusing on getting is the Black Ram Supply Soul Shield. And with upgrading your weapons and your accessories, the next things you're going to need are going to be Siren accessories and a Siren weapon. But the Siren weapon won't come in right after the Awakened Infernal Sword. It's going to come in after you get the Hujikar Sword. So you might be a level above this. You might have the True Infernal Sword. But then your next weapon you're going to need is going to be the Siren weapon. Those weapons and accessories drop from the 6-man to 24-man instance. I can't really confirm if the weapons drop, but you will get a currency from farming these dungeons, and it will give you Siren emblems. And you can bring these Siren emblems over to the merchant that's standing over here on the left, and she's right in front of the 24-man instance, and you can spin these Siren emblems to get any of the Soul Shield pieces that you're missing, accessories, or the weapons. So if you farm these dungeons so much and still haven't got the drop you're looking for, you can spin the Siren emblems that you get for completing dailies and from boss drops, and you're guaranteed to get those. So if you're not guaranteed the item, you're guaranteed to get the Siren emblems you can spin for the item. The biggest bitch when it comes to upgrading these accessories and weapon is that they require a Moonwater transformation stone. So by the time you hit like 45, you may have like 7 gold at most. Some of you may be higher, some of you lower. That's probably not enough to get you a Moonwater transformation stone off the auction house. So what you can do is you can continue to complete dailies every day, and these in-game quests over here, they drop a ton of silver. So you'll have, I don't know, maybe more than 10 gold after like 2 or 3 days of doing them. And then you can buy yourself a Moonwater transformation stone. Or you can take the maybe longer route, but the cheaper route, which is crafting them yourselves. So we're going to talk about the crafting guilds. If you press L, you can bring up your crafting and gathering tab, and you can have 2 crafting guilds and 2 gathering guilds. If you want to craft this transformation stone yourself and also maybe invest into something that can make you a lot of profit in the long run in the auction house, I would suggest you pick up these 2 crafting guilds, the Green Thumbs and the Tree Fellers, and the Soul Wardens and the Mary Potters. A lot of people have not gotten into crafting because they just rushed to level 45, but this is something you should look into. It's a very time-consuming process, but it doesn't require you to really do anything in-game except press the button and wait a few hours or a few minutes. Jadestone Village is pretty much where they start at, and it will give you little quests to start them. As you can see, when you press L and bring up your crafting guides and shit like that, you will have certain things that are locked, like the White Cedar Log. It requires me to have a guild level 3, so I can't do this yet. This required me to be level 2, but when you start, for example, the Tree Fellers, you'll be able to place an order. It requires nothing but a little bit of copper and just waiting. You continuously spam this until your guild hits level 2. And then once you can craft something else that gives you more points, it might take more time, but it gives you more points, so it's more worth it. You'll just keep spamming it. That's what you want to do. Eventually you want to get the Soul Wardens up to guild level 3 so that you can craft the next stone. I think it's level 3 or it's level 4. One of those. You have to craft this stone. And in order to get that level 3, you'll have to get your guilds more than level 1 because of the mats that are required. So I suggest you guys just look around. And also when it comes to crafting, for example, the pine log, in order to craft this, not only do you have to have your guild level 2, but you have to find the pine log out in the open somewhere. And you guys can just Google that, you know, where to find it. It's very easy. I'll also be posting a guide on my website so you guys can look more into it. But crafting the stone yourself, like I said, is more cheaper, but in the long run, your guilds will be so high level that you can make a ton of profit off the auction house just in the mats that you crafted to get that stone. I've been crafting Cinderlands transformation stones to boost my guild rank or reputation, but they're actually useless for me, so I put those on the auction house and I can make a ton of gold. Like I said, for this Moonwater stone that you need to craft up your accessories and weapon, you can craft it yourself, or you can wait a few days, get some gold, and buy it off the auction house. So when it comes to end game, what is there to do once you got your sets and stuff like that? Well, you can make a guild, or you can join a guild, and you can have goals for this guild, which is to rank it up all the way. And there's also an end-game world boss called Blackworm, and to fight this guy, you probably need Blackworm roar resistance charms, and you can only get those once your guild is a certain rank, and you also need a ton of mats. Honestly, if you're going to be in a guild of 3 people, it's probably not worth it, but if you have a guild that has high goals where you plan on getting a ton of members that all work together and stuff like that, here you go. So I'm going to speak about factions and guild ranking. To rank up your guild, it requires faction insignias. And to get those, you have to complete faction dailies and kill faction bosses. There are a ton that you can actually do this and get these faction insignias. For example, in the Cinderlands, there's an area right here in the Scorching Sands where you pretty much get, like, it's not your first faction quest, but it's like your first serious faction quest. And in this area, you can complete the dailies every day. All you have to do is go over to like your red tent or your blue tent, whichever faction you're in, and put on your faction outfit, and you'll actually see the quest show up on the map or in front of you over the NPCs. Complete those quests. You can do the same in the Moonwater Plains and Misty Woods, and those ones are the most beneficial when it comes to experience and reward because they're like the end game ones. The Crimson Beach is also another place end game where you'll be doing faction questing. I would say most of the PvP goes down here, so not only is this just for rewards, but if you guys are into PvP, Misty Woods is where most of the endgame PvP happens at. When you complete those faction dailies, you get faction insignias, which you can then spend with merchants on bullshit, or you can invest them into your guild and rank it up. Not only do you get rewarded experience and faction insignias for completing this, but your faction reputation goes up and you will have a higher rank, so you can flex your EP and show people, you know, hey, I'm a fucking boss. I killed a ton of blues or a ton of reds. So this is just one of the end-game goals. Even if you don't have a guild or don't need the faction insignias, maybe just doing a ton of PvP and completing the quest will eventually rank you up and make you look like a badass. So that's something to do in-game. Blade & Soul is going to be releasing a ton of content very soon. They already have all of this content ready for us. They're just going to be shipping it out in parts. You know, you can't just give us content overload and then we're like, hey, where's the rest of the content at? And they're like, oh, we already gave it all to you. So they're giving it to us in bits and pieces. The Warlock class will come soon as well. So I would say in game, just focus on getting the best gear you can. And the East Fleet supply chain, or the supply chain Soul Shield set, isn't the best set you can get in the game. I mean, it is one of the best, but you also want to focus on which set benefits your class most in PvE and PvP. If you press the Dungeon Finder and you look at some of the in-game dungeons and find out what those Soul Shields are about, maybe some of those sets will benefit your class more, such as more evasion for assassins, more critical for blade dancers to help them proc their skills. So I would just say going for the supply chain Soul Shield set is a good in-game Soul Shield set to start with because it will give you a ton of HP and stats needed for PvE and world bosses. But then one of your main in-game goals, like I said and was talking about earlier, is to kill Blackworm, that world boss, because I don't know what he drops. Probably drops some really good shit. I don't know if it's a set or a weapon that you need, but to defeat him you're going to need to be geared. And when it comes to PvP set, that's pretty much up to you guys. If I find out, you know, some good stuff about PvP sets, I'll try to put it on my website or make a YouTube video about it. But yeah, this is just where you should kind of start and focus on end game. And then there's always arenas, but arenas are completely balanced. Gear does not matter at all when it comes to arenas, so I can't really help you guys with that. But yeah, I would say that Blade and Soul end game is just all about doing difficult PvE and seeing, you know, if you can solo dungeons or take them on the hardest difficulties by yourself or with friends, ranking up in faction by beating other people's ass and doing faction dailies, and ranking your guild up and trying to take on Blackworm. Other than that, finish the story if you haven't, and then when the new content comes out, you'll be ready to take on the new story. So I hope this video helped you guys out just a little bit. If it did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel for more Blade and Soul videos. And yeah, that's it, guys. See you in the next vid.